Hello, friends. Welcome to the History News, the second History News for August. Thank you if you are taking the time to watch live, and also if you are watching on the playback, thank you very much. I'm going to just lean this way. I'm wondering if you can tell what I'm sat in front of. Today's background photograph was provided to us by the lovely Yvonne. I can see that Yvonne, though, is not going to be in the chat because she has got an eye appointment. I hope your eye appointment goes well. What that means is, of course, that you can't tell us what I'm sat in front of, but it's up to everybody else to guess. Let's say some hellos before we kick off. Hello, Shane. All is well. I am counting off the days like it's an advent calendar. I think it has got cooler, but I would not know about that. I am not feeling any cooler. I'm very warm. Hello, Jessie. Thank you for joining. Nitsa, hello. Medusa Snudpuckle, hello. MJ, thank you so much for joining. And Amanda, hola. ¿Qué tal? ¿Estás bien? Oh, Rolo, hello. So you came to one of the sessions that I lead at the Tower of London. I'm so pleased that you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And yes, I am looking forward, once my little person comes, I'm looking forward to getting back to work when I can. Thank you so much for joining. Makeup Monarchies, hello. Thank you. Cheryl, welcome. Alicia, hello. Hello, Steve. Hello, Kathleen. Thank you so much. Laurie, hello. Lizzie, I think saying I speak Spanish is a gross overestimation of my capacities. I did take Spanish at school, mostly because I was absolutely diabolical at French, and I did do Spanish all the way up till AS level, which is the year before final A levels. So I have a modicum of Spanish. I would not say it was anywhere near. But of course, I live with somebody, my husband, who is fluent in French, so that does always pale into insignificance. Anything that you can do when you have somebody who is a fluent French speaker in your house. Evening, Scarlett. Alicia, it might be. Where is that located? Because Yvonne sent this to me and she did not tell me and I haven't been to this place. So I am just wondering, where is that? Nick's offering the Wayne House Tower? Possibly. Possibly. What location is that on? I'm looking for the larger historical site, which I have not visited. It's on my list. But yes, Annie, I am. It's not a thing I normally do. Particularly, I like to have my shoulders covered, but needs must. And I have a fan about 1.5 foot from my face currently. So, any guesses? The people who have suggested tower names may well be right. I don't know which one this is. So where are those located? And I'll tell you if those are correct. Yvonne did tell me where this photograph came from. I know where the photograph came from. I just don't know what this thing in it is called. So why do English people / writers start calling individuals by the name of a place that they become Earl or Duke of? It's really confusing. Yes. Because, for example, and I think it happens a lot historically, when everybody has about the same 6 names. So everybody's like a Thomas or a William or a Henry or a John. So when you have succession after succession of Edward Seymours, for example, the way to differentiate them in a given time moment is to refer to them by the title that they have. So if you are the Duke of Somerset, it makes much more sense to refer to that, to Edward Seymour, Protector Somerset, rather than trying to figure out which one it is. I mean, there are countless Thomas Howards, some of whom are Dukes of Norfolk, some of whom are not. So because everybody calls themselves, their children, by the same first name, sometimes you have brothers who have the same first and last name. So the title is a way of differentiating people because first name doesn't quite cut it. So I am sat in front of a tower that is located at Gettysburg. If anybody knows the name of this particular tower at Gettysburg, then please do let me know. So we do have an update. We have repatriations. We have some new news. We have ding-dongs. We also have an event/exhibition to discuss. Once again, the opera pinboard has failed me. It's let me down, so we haven't got that today. However, if you go to the description box, you will find all of the articles listed and numbered in the description box. Those numbers do relate to the numbers that you're going to see on screen at the bottom of the slides that are going to be up on screen in a moment. Thank you ever so much for sending me the articles that you sent me. I have seen lots of articles coming in today and yesterday, so they may not feature in this one unless somebody else sent them to me, and we will have to see how things progress, because obviously I am now precipitously close to having a child, so this probably is going to be the last history news before I head off on my maternity leave, and that is what's going to happen. Jessie asks, Gettysburg, UK or USA? To my knowledge, we don't have one here. If I'm incorrect, my geography is absolutely abysmal, but to my knowledge, there is not a Gettysburg in the UK. It's only in the US. Lana is suggesting this is called Memorial's Lookout at Devil's Den. Well, there we go. Oh, hang on. Sorry. Little Round Top. I'm becoming more confused. I probably need to know my Gettysburg geography more than I do. The castle at Little Round Top, Gettysburg. There you go. That's what we're in front of. It's very cool. I haven't done. Well, I've only ever been to the States once, and I went to New York. So I did actually. That's tell a lie. I did cross from Canada into Buffalo when I was younger. So I have many historical sites that I wish to check out. Jessie has looked it up. So this was dedicated on the 3rd of July, 1893. A cost of almost $11,000, without question the largest, most expensive regimental monument on the field. Fabulous. Steve, you did not send me the image of the Uffington horse. I'll have to, but if you do, I'm going to have to save it so everyone forgets we've talked about this. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit of a giveaway. I would love to come to Boston. I'd love to come to Boston. I also want to go to New Orleans. As an English person, that's difficult for me to pronounce, but I have many things that I want to do. I've been to Toronto in Canada, and then we crossed to Buffalo to go to Six Flags. There we go. Right, let's hop in. I have many thanks to do first of all, for people who sent me articles. So let's hop in without further ado. And I want to say thank you to my name twin, Kat, to Yvonne, not only sending pictures, but also articles, to Jessie, Kathy, to Alicia, to Beth, Becky, to Jenna, to Elverta, to Sherry, to Kate, to, as she comes over in emails, Rumplestiltskin Snudpuckle, to Carolyn, Jennifer, Natalie, Laurie, and to Shane. Thank you ever so much for sending me these articles. And I am looking forward to talking about them with you now. And Pamela has given me the pronunciation. Norlins. Yes. My husband and I did have a conversation about going to all of the locations where the crime procedurals are staged. So New York, New Orleans, Chicago, or basically everything that Las Vegas, Miami, anything that's got an NCIS, a CSI, a Law and Order coming out of it. We want it. We want it. Nick asks, going to be in London next July. Well, fabulous. I hope you have a lovely time. The tours that I do are through, so the ones at Hampton Court or the Tower of London, they are through the schools booking team. So it's educational groups for under 18s. But if things change and if other opportunities arise, I will, of course, let you know. But I hope you have a fabulous time. Let's hop in. Our update. We have got a lost colony, a Rowan Oak update, potentially. A copper earring has been unearthed by the First Colony Foundation. They are the team of archaeologists that are digging on site, and they have come to the conclusion that it was almost certainly traded or gifted to local Native Americans by Sir Walter Raleigh's explorers. This analysis was conducted on it, a laboratory analysis, and it found that the copper that was used to make the ring was European in origin rather than being from a North American source. We are told that this is significant because neither French nor Spanish, so essentially England's rivals in this procedure of exploring and settling the New World, ventured as far north as Roanoke Island to trade. So if it's European, they are saying that it must, and from the time period that it comes from, that it must have come with the English colonists rather than with the French, Spanish, or indeed Portuguese. They also say that this copper earring shows that they have in fact located the correct site of Roanoke, and this village, as we know, was abandoned in 1586. So it's thought that the earring must have been presented as a gift or exchanged in trade before that point. So either during that first 1584 visit or perhaps in the 1585 Ralph Lane colony. And it's thought this happens before the attempted further settlement in 1587, the one that's led by John White. And John White, of course, returns to England, and he gets there just before the Armada kicks off. So when it comes time to him to collect supplies and go back, he is massively curtailed in his capacity to do that. So when he does return, he finds that the settlement that he has left behind is completely abandoned, and it looks like it's been looted, and the mystery of centuries has gone on from that point onwards. So we shall see if and indeed when we get more information. I think what everybody is looking into here and what everybody's most concerned about, I think, is trying to figure out what happens to these colonists. And there are a few options, some more, shall we say, inventive than others. Either hunger drives them to go in search of some kind of subsistence or support. Perhaps they come to some deal with one of the local communities. They manage to make some sort of peace with them. Maybe they separate out and spread out amongst. So perhaps we have a kind of multi-heritage communities there. Otherwise, the hunger gets the best of them and they pass away, although presumably not on the site of the colony, because John White doesn't find evidence of burials or human remains, and nor, to my knowledge, have those been found on the site by archaeologists today. So presumably, if they are met with violence or illness or starvation, it doesn't happen there. It doesn't mean they don't meet with those things, but presumably they have scattered since then. The other alternative is, of course, that they misjudge the weather. They aren't familiar with this weather coming from where they come from, and as the seasons move on, they struggle. Of course, there is the potential for violence, either from local communities or amongst themselves. Perhaps the most outlandish theory that does do the rounds every so often is that they are, of course, abducted by aliens. So I think that's perhaps the least likely one. But of course, one thing that we do notice as English people is that if there is going to be an alien abduction, it does seem to be almost exclusively happening in North America, specifically in the United States of America. We don't tend to hear about alien abductions all that much anywhere else. So perhaps if it was going to happen anywhere, then it's going to have to be the States. So that's my update for you. We have, of course, got some repatriation. We've got one repatriation here. We have got a document showing the earliest attempt by settlers to purchase land in Aotearoa. It has been now acquired by the Auckland Museum. This document is dated to September the 23rd, 1826. And somehow it was at a London auction earlier in the year. It shows a group of settlers attempting to purchase 4 islands in the Hauraki Gulf, but they were in this unsuccessful. It's now been acquired by the Auckland War Memorial Museum, and so it's returned home after nearly 200 years. A spokesperson for the museum, David Reeves, said, quote, "Most people probably don't realise that the first attempt at British settlement in New Zealand included an attempted purchase of islands in the Hauraki Gulf." Bringing this document home to Aotearoa and to Tamiki Makaurau specifically will provide opportunities for education and discussion about this significant part of our history. We are especially looking forward to connecting with and working alongside descendants of those who signed the document 2 centuries ago, including the Gatipawa. This document, we're told, can be traced back to a ship called the Rosanna. This arrived at Pegasus Harbour, Stewart Island, on the 5th of March, 1826. It was owned by the first iteration of the New Zealand Company, and in it were 60 settlers. While it was anchored off the coastline, the group attempted to buy these 4 islands on September the 23rd. The deal included, quote, all the trees growing with the creeks, bays and harbours on the said islands and said 3 miles distance from their shores. The company reps attempted to make an exchange for the island with the offer of 1 double-barrel gun, 8 muskets, and 1 barrel of powder. The document records an agreement being made with 8 Maori rangitera, and it was witnessed by 15 Maori rangitera, 14 of whom signed with their moku. The document is one of the earliest known examples of this type of signature, and a research is now ongoing into the identities of these tapuna. No claim was made based on the deed, as the expedition was poorly organised with limited financial support, and it took place right in the middle of the Musket Wars. There was then a second attempt at purchasing land, and then after this, the Rosanna left for Sydney without having established any kind of official settlement. The document was held by a family called the Lyell family. George Lyell was one of the directors of the first New Zealand Company and is one of the 4 New Zealand Company names on the documents. The Auckland Museum's curator of manuscripts said, quote, Having this document alongside the two already in the country, which differ in several ways, will enable research into their connection to each other and the processes involved in these early transactions. The document sold for $115,214, and it was paid for by 3 private donors. So if they find out more from this document, I will, of course, add it to the updates. So those were some quick ones. We had some quick updates, some quick repatriations, and now we're hopping straight in to the new news. Brian, talking about Rowan Oak 1590, 1826 seems kind of late in modern history. It does, and I think it also speaks to the span of empire building and just how many centuries this was going on for, because of course 1826 is not by any means the end of the story. It goes on for quite some time. So on to our new news. We have one of our League of Extraordinary Child Archaeologists, 10-year-old Tegan, went for a summer holiday beach stroll, and she found herself walking in the footsteps of dinosaurs. She spotted 5 enormous footprints that experts believe are the mark of a camelotia that was walking this area about 200 million years ago. They think the footprints, which are 75 centimeters or 30 inches apart, were made by a huge herbivore in the late Triassic period. They are now looking to get them verified. The National Museum of Wales paleontology curator has said that she is, quote, fairly certain that they are in fact genuine dinosaur prints. These footprints are so big, it would have to be a type of dinosaur called a sauropodomorpha. It was found on the south coast of Wales. Tegan's very excited by this, understandably, that she says, we were just looking out to see what we can find. We didn't think we'd find anything. What we found were these big holes that look like dinosaur footprints. So my mum took pictures, emailed the museum, and it was this long-necked dinosaur. How exciting for her. And we've got some artist's impression pictures of what they might have looked like. We are told this is quite a significant find. The curator says, the buzz you get when someone connects with us, a definite dinosaur find, it's amazing. It's hard to comprehend that you're walking on the same beach that hundreds of millions of years ago, some massive prehistoric animal was here. You can spend a lifetime looking for dinosaur treasures, so for it to happen to Tegan at this age is great. So presumably we are now in the process of having these footprints further examined. There's going to need to be some work done to confirm that they are what they think they are, but what excellent news, and good and well done to Tegan. Very good. We do like our child archaeologists. The circle, the round table of extraordinary children continues to grow further still. A 13,600-year-old Macedon skull has been found in Iowa Creek. This is said to be Iowa State's first well-preserved mastodon. The University of Iowa's Office of the State Archaeologist said that a 12-day excavation involving staff and local community members had yielded, quote, several mastodon bones. They had been then radiocarbon dated, and it's then dated this mastodon to this period about 13,600 years ago. They are looking at the bones to see if they can find any evidence of human activity, such as cut marks. Was this mastodon killed and butchered by early humans? They said, quote, we're really hoping to find evidence of human interaction with this creature, perhaps the projectile points and knives that were used to kill the animal and to do initial butchering. There's also potential evidence on the bones themselves. There could be identifiable cut marks, mastodons being a relative of modern day elephants. This would have stood at nearly 10 feet tall with tusks. Mastodons as a species existed from about 3.5 million years ago to roughly 10,500 years ago. and their fossils have been found all across North and Central America. Iowa's archaeologists said the site of the dig is along an eroding creek bank in Wayne County, and it was first brought to their attention in 2022. These Macedon bones are going to be part of a new exhibit at the Prairie Trails Museum in Corydon. If I pronounced that wrong, I apologize. It's in Iowa, but this is going to follow a period of conservation and analysis at the university. So if anybody's local to that or has plans to be in Corydon, Iowa, and you get to see the Macedon, then do let us know your thoughts. Kit, your first live stream. Thank you for joining. I hope you enjoy yourself. Petroglyphs are at risk. So these are petroglyphs, which are said to be among the world's oldest practiced art form. One of these is found in Iran. This petroglyph is also known as rock art, and these are images that are etched or carved into stone surfaces. In ancient times, pictures also served as mnemonic devices to help recall data. And this early use of visualization led to developments of systems of symbolic pictographs and ideographs, the precursors of alphabets. The placement of these petrographs in 31 archaeological sites with an area of over 50 square kilometers is said to be and has created an unmatched museum in the heart of this region. These carvings are representations of plants and animals in a variety of styles, some realistic, some abstract. They've got animal representations, goats with big pointed horns. There are felines, canids, horses, dromedaries, owls, fishes, tigers, cows, birds, partridges, storks, etc. They've got plants like wheat, pine, cedar. They have images of what seems to be martial arts, dances, pregnant women, caravans of camels, and people with big hands, apparently. Some of these images might have been estimated to be as much as 40,000 years old, but they have, we are told, been left unprotected and, quote, neglected. It's said to receive minimal attention from authorities and is lacking adequate protective measures. Indeed, there has been no national foundation has been established to safeguard this cultural heritage, and these relics are, and there are thousands of them, is in real danger of disappearing. Apparently, this area was completely unknown until a few decades ago. It was only in the early 1990s that this area was even introduced to Iranians, and it's because a book was written by a man called Dr. Morteza Fahidi, and the book is called Museums in the Wind. Following this, scholars started working on the area, started writing books about it. However, this then also drove tourism. It's Italian travelers and scholars, for example, traveled to the region in 2005. They were shown these carvings. They had no idea where to find the petroglyphs. The quantity of them astounded visitors, and upon their return, they started talking about the need to preserve the site, highlighting the value of these artifacts. The problem is that this quote largest open air museum is now at the mercy of miners. There are apparently 5 major mining operations that are extracting silica for the glass and steel industries that are actively working in this area. And these mining activities posed a severe threat to this collection. That was until the persistent advocacy of these scholars managed to halt 3 of the operation. Nevertheless, there are 2 that are still up and running. All of the attempts to preserve and protect these items are being spearheaded by non-governmental organizations and by local community leaders. So essentially, it becomes problematic because it does not have state backing in this way. there are people pressing for the need for there to be a national response to the preservation of this, and that in addition to the archaeologists who are flooding in, there needs to be a tangible conservation effort going on. They point out, quote, "We have not seen any foreign tourists in 3 years. The archaeologists who visit the area acknowledge its uniqueness and potential, but these insights are, quote, merely observational, and they do not translate into action." So we'll keep our eyes on it. We will see what happens. And concerning. Good thing that some of these mines appear to be shut down. I'll be honest with you, I can't tell you exactly why silica mining, or indeed any mining, would be dangerous. Although I suppose, of course, if you are digging into rock, you destabilize the area. It can lead to collapse. That is my assumption. I am by no means knowledgeable enough to say exactly why this is dangerous, but I can certainly see how and why it would be. Why was the Neolithic site known as Scotland's Pompei abandoned? Beyond the north coast of Scotland lies an archipelago of islands called the Orkney Islands. This is more than 70 islands scattered across the North Sea, we are told, like breadcrumbs. These islands are one enormous archaeological site. And when you dig into the soil, you can find burial tombs, monoliths, other stone arrangements. In 1850, an apocalyptic storm exposed a Neolithic site, Skara Brae. This is known as the Scottish Pompei. The name is apparently a corruption of the Old Norse expression meaning hill by the reef, which suggests the site had been submerged in sand and lost to human memory. Archaeologists discovered in excavations that started in the 1920s this incredibly well preserved Neolithic site. It's a village consisting of 8 rectangular structures connected by paved alleys that once housed up to 100 people. Geology has proved to be the archaeologists' friends, because there is a dearth of timber, which forced the Orkney residents and inhabitants to build in stone instead, which is, of course, why they have survived so well. Skara Brae was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1999, and it was referred to as being a centre of innovation and experimentation. Built from large flat stone slabs, the houses were insulated from the cold. And believe me, that part of the world can be very, very cold indeed. So you're going to want to be insulated as best you can. There was an encircling mound of packed waste and a door that could be bolted shut. When you crawl inside, the first thing you see is a dresser built into the back of the wall, lined with the household's most valuable possessions. So these are grooved ware pots, ornate stone objects. Then there are the hearths, together with storage spaces that are dug into the floor, and beds that are arranged with men on the left and women on the right. This is apparently a practice that continued in the islands well into living memory. Apparently, as well, these houses had flushing toilets, with holes being connected to a communal drain that carried the waste out to sea. So we are talking here about a Neolithic community with flushing toilets. They found a number of artifacts, as well as the architecture. They could see that milk and shellfish would have been presented in stone bowls, idols acknowledged in whalebone figurines, games made out of dice with walrus ivory, jewellery from the teeth of killer whales. These people were sheep and cattle farmers who enjoyed this plentiful land. It was also clearly peaceful. They didn't find any weapons. So then the question, of course, becomes, why did they abandon it? In around 2500 BCE, life on this site came to an end. This can seem to be abrupt. It seems that they think that people might have been forced to flee. However, this is unlikely. The sea is further from the village than it is now. probably instead what they think happened is that people turned away from communal living and towards one of isolated farmsteads that dot the island. Why they did this remains unclear. Maybe they just all fell out with each other. Who knows? There is potentially indications of the emergence of there being a ruling elite that forced a social restructuring. Perhaps climate change made the land around less fertile. Either way, the message of Skara Brae is clear. A society's way of life can seem fundamental and permanent until one day it isn't. Skara Brae is on my list of places to go. What an incredible, beautiful sight. Although I think I probably would want to go in summer. I think it would be bleak in winter. Pretty bleak in winter. So let me look at the chats. So about the previous story, silica mining is dangerous in general. I have no doubt. Goodness only knows the various chemicals that are kicked off with all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's been fairly recently that we found out the dangers of talc mining and of the inclusion of talc in various cosmetics, etc. In case you don't know, if any of your cosmetics have talc in them, stop using them, because there are apparently levels of asbestos contamination in talc. So do be careful. C. McG, Orkney is amazing. I've heard such incredible things. The landscape is just supposed to be absolutely phenomenal. People having internet problems. I hope it all sorts itself out. Yes, I think that I'm my understanding is that there are some lawsuits about the talc stuff, Lana, and I think it comes it's in the process of mining. I think where that as you get talc, it can be that where it's mined from can be contaminated with asbestos. Apologies. So do check cosmetics. Elizabeth, I think they visited there on Time Team as well. I think they did a dig there. I want to say on the kind of further out to the coast, they did a dig there. I'm going to check that out. Tracy, yes, they have now. So the replacement for talc is now cornstarch, and more cosmetics. I think probably all cosmetics that are made now will have cornstarch rather than talc. This is for people who, although we know we shouldn't, because we do know, don't we, that cosmetics have a sell-by date on them and a use-by date on them of months, 12 or 24 months. I know that I am not alone, that sometimes we stretch that. So if you have, I mean, heaven forfend you've got cosmetics that I don't know your mum gave you, just check for the talc. Just check for the talc. So this was sent to me a whole bunch of times. Stonehenge's altar stone was carried all the way from northeast Scotland, we have been told. This is a 6-ton megalith that was transported almost 500 miles to Wiltshire. The question is, how does this happen? As this article points out, even by modern standards, John O'Groats to Wiltshire is quite the trek. This 500 miles, 13 hours by car or a 10-day walk, and that is not including a 6-ton block of stone in tow. Professor Nick Pearce, who is a geologist at Aberystwyth, says, quote, when you're trying to move something weighing 6 tons in excess of 750 kilometres, it's an enormous undertaking. There's been a lobby that argues that the stones were transported by ice to the area near Stonehenge, then picked up and used. but this scenario excludes the revelation that the stone had a Scottish origin, since the ice flow from that region was in a northerly direction. From Orkney, I can't see a way that stone hikes a ride on half a dozen glaciers in the right order to end up on the Salisbury Plain. Instead, based on our fieldwork in southwest Wales, it's likely the stone was extracted rather than just lying loose on the surface. Professor Richard Bevins, who's another archaeologist from Aberystwyth, says the altar stone, which is sandstone, has a natural plane of parting, which could be exploited in exactly the same way with rock wedges and hammerstones, enabling extraction of a large slab-like rock piece. It's speculated that the stone might have been lashed onto a wooden sledge and pulled along logs arranged like railway sleepers using ropes made from plant fibres. We're told that you could make good ropes out of things like lime bark. This produces very strong, long fibres that can be made into ropes, and then would be strong enough to move something of this kind of scale. The division among the experts is whether this stone is moved by land or by sea. So perhaps future studies will point someone in the right direction to that. Although one of the senior curators at English Heritage, Heather Sibert, says that her gut feeling is that it came over land and that it possibly took a long time, not necessarily done in one fell swoop. Getting places as quickly as possible is a modern concept. We're always in a hurry. Their mindset was probably very different. You can think of it as a pilgrimage. So the building itself, the transporting of these pieces is in itself an act of faith. I think that's very interesting. She points out that near Stonehenge it would have been open scrub with clusters of trees. If they literally went from A to B, it could have been months, or it could have taken years. She also points out there is a lack of archaeological evidence for advanced Neolithic boats. That experiments have been done to try to bring the equivalent of the blue stones on rafts across the Severn. I'm afraid that none of them have been successful, that they sank. It's thought that about 40 to 50 people might have been required to lug this altar stones, but there is a question about whether even a strong, cohesive team could have carried it over hills and around mountains. And although there haven't been sophisticated vessels developed, there isn't evidence in there being a trade in stone axes between the Alps and the Lake District. That there's pottery in the south of England that had its origins in Orkney, and that herds of cattle were clearly being transported across the channel. So Richards points out the idea that everyone lived in isolated groups is not right. So maybe it's not, if it is transported by some kind of vessel, perhaps it's not one that's indigenous to these islands. Maybe a different group helped out. What we have to point out is that conclusive evidence about the altar stone route might remain out of reach. But what is clear is that it is further evidence of the ingenuity of these Neolithic builders. So fabulous. If, as and when we get more news, I will of course let you know. Dawn points out they used powdered asbestos as stone. I mean, the thing is that asbestos, and until you see and understand asbestosis, asbestos is a wonder material. It's fabulous at insulating. It is flame retardant. In terms of making houses that don't burn, which was, of course, for much, particularly obviously, Great Fire of London, the threat of fire in my nation was one that was and remains an overwhelming one. I can see why, when you find something like asbestos, you go, yeah, let's put it everywhere. And then you figure out just how lethal it is. I mean, they were putting asbestos in cigarette filters to keep your lungs clear. And I understand the logic. And in the same way, we're now starting to see the issues more and more with plastics, and particularly with microplastics. We find these wonder materials, and often we don't really see the true threats and risks to them, not only to our own physicalities, but to our wider world, until they are in mass production. Yeah, that's the thing. When asbestos is left alone, asbestos, it's when you start fiddling with it that it becomes an issue. Talking about good news, some ancient Babylonian tablets have been deciphered, and apparently, you'll be pleased to know they are full of absolutely terrible news. Lovely. These 4,000 year, yeah, Julesy pointed out. Sorry, just hopping back. Radium girls, and over here, Fossy Jaw. I mean, radium was a wonder material. It could do incredible things. It could also do very, very bad things. So onto our Babylonian tablets of doom. So what have we got here? These we're told that the ancient Babylonians used astrological divination as a tool for serious statecraft. They believed that their mercurial gods placed coded signs in the heavens that foretold the fate of kings, their families, and the lands they ruled over. How spectacular! This is going to be such good news. In time, astronomers and scholars developed a body of celestial omen text that connected these phenomena with their earthly predictions. Spectacular. Essentially, these are troubleshooting manuals for pious kings that came in the form of clay tablets etched in a cuneiform script. Lunar eclipses are something that's closely watched by those who advise Babylonian kings. These examples of texts belong to the British Museum. Whether they rightfully belong there, another question mark, no doubt. But a professor at the University of London called Andrew George, who has teamed up with Junko Taniguchi, who's an independent researcher, they have started to decipher 4,000-year-old tablets from an area that was on the banks of the Euphrates, so in modern-day Iraq. Quote, omens arising from lunar eclipses were of great importance for good statecraft and well-counselled governments. In later periods, there is ample evidence to show that astrological observation was part of an elaborate method of protecting kings and regulating kingly behaviour in conformity with the wishes of gods. The tablets repeat their information, and in total they contain up to 61 omens. So it says, if so-and-so happens, then this will happen. These factors are used to decipher an eclipse, including the time of night, the movement of the shadow, the duration, as well as the month and the day of the year. Some divinations are connected to lived experience. For the most part, it's based on a theoretical system that links characteristics of an eclipse to various omens. The futures foretold were almost uniformly bad news for the empire. They range from inclement weather to the warning that, quote, the deluge will occur everywhere, to famine, as in, quote, people will trade their children for silver, there will be a reduction in population. Oh, my blood's running cold. To general chaos, cautioning, quote, there will be evil in the land, its bounty will disappear. Although, fortunately, there is apparently ways to counteract these omens, and that is by seeking out oracles. Anybody have the phone number? Where are the oracles? Where are the oracles? These are specialists who be called in to examine the entrails of animals. Will a butcher do? Could I just go down? Could I go down to my local Morrison's Market Street and speak to a butcher? We're told the provenance of these tablets does remain murky. It's thought that they were purchased by the British Museum from a range of Babylonian antique traders in the final decades of the 1800s. Probably shouldn't be where they are, but they are there. Maybe that's a bad omen. Maybe first things first, send the tablets back. Send the tablets back. Kit Gilmore, when am I going on maternity leave? Well, technically, this is it. Technically, I stopped officially working out of the house in July. So technically, I am on maternity leave. This is what this looks like for me. I honestly have no idea. I am starting to feel the weight of it. So I am going to wind down a bit further still before sunroof day. And I have no idea what my content, either pre-recorded or live, is going to look like post birth, because I don't know how I'm going to recover. I have no idea what it's going to be like having 2 children. That's going to be wild. But I have the community tab. I have the capacity to make shorts, and I'm not going to be gone forever, that's for sure, because I will miss you all. So I shall return, but I'm going to play it by ear, and I'm not going to write checks that I might not be able to cash, because I am fully aware that every birth, and particularly every C-section birth, is different, and one recovery will not be like the other. So I will, when I'm physically able, you won't keep me away long, because I do get bored very easily. I do get bored very easily. Brian, not using confinement or laying in. No, I shan't be confined. As I had a pregnancy in 2020, I feel like I've been through a confinement, and I have no desire to experience the like again. Yeah. Jules is getting me threats. Close to term, your sister ate Chinese food and probably went into labour, right? Okay, I will be only having toast, and milk. I'm going to eat like a Dickensian workhouse orphan, just in case, because the last thing I want is to do that. No thanks. Unfortunately, Jamie's going to have his hands full by waiting on me and the 2 tyrants we're raising. So he's going to be very busy. He's going to be very busy. Dawn, you can indeed binge watch my past catalogue of videos. I have been on here. God blimey, it's been a good few years now, hasn't it? And also, I might just play around with shorts. I have been thinking that one interesting thing now, because when I had Gabriel, we couldn't really go out and about. And something that I think I show when I do the History News lives that I'm interested in. I'm interested in when you go to museums. I'm interested by all sorts of ethics around museums and heritage sites. And a lot of those do include things like accessibility. And while pushing a pram or having an infant is by no means saying that is the same as being somebody who is a wheelchair user, whether ambulatory or otherwise. I think it certainly gives you a far better inclination about what these places are like. If you're pushing a pram, you become far more aware of obstacles. So I did sort of think that maybe something I could do with the new little one is I could go and see places and check them out. Like, how child friendly are they? How, pushchair friendly are they? So I thought maybe I could do that as well. Yes, I think we do. I think we need, and of course, we also need spaces that are tactile and sensory and all of those sorts of things. And those aren't necessarily things that I'm going to be in tune with simply because I've had a child, but it is something that I think about. So I wonder actually if that could be something that people would find useful, because I know lots of you are not based in the UK, but you have plans to come and visit. Maybe you might bringing small people in tow. Maybe you might be you might have access needs yourself, and so I wonder if actually that kind of video might be a really useful thing for people. Okay, fabulous. Yeah, Rebecca, having a pram in tow really opened your eyes to how inaccessible the world in general is. Anybody else who's pushed a pram get just the most infernal rage for people parking on pavements? It is absolutely, or people leaving obstacles, because I think about people who fly tip or who leave obstacles in pavement or leave their gates open, because I think to myself, not only is this blocking my way with a pram, it's certainly blocking a wheelchair user's path, but also somebody who's visually impaired, and particularly if they rely on something like a cane, that is going to be really risky for them. Really risky. This also needs to happen. We need bigger, proper size. I'm a big believer. Let's merge all of the toilets together. Let's everybody have individual cubicles with their own sink inside. Let's just do that. Because the queue for the ladies, no thank you. No thank you. And let's also make them spaces where, regardless of which parent is with the child, or grandparent for that matter, or caregiver, there is always going to be a baby change. The amount of times my husband had to change our son on the floor of a cleaning cupboard because there was either no baby change in the men's toilet or one that wasn't accessible. We went to the new shopping centre a few ages ago that they put in at the Battersea Power Station, and he could not change our son. There was nowhere for him to change our son. And considering that was refurnished and built, the interior was remade very recently, I think that is absolutely audacious. Granted, some things were closed off, so it's possible that somewhere that wasn't, if it hadn't all been closed off, it's possible there was a toilet, a men's toilet with a baby change in it, but I didn't see one, and he went to the toilet looking for one, and there wasn't one. Yeah, lots of things give me the rage. These are other things. Good to know where toilets are. Absolutely. Blowfield, yes. Never enough drop curbs. We call them drop curbs here. Kit, yes. If it's pushchair friendly, it will be wheelchair friendly too. Is certainly the. But of course, for example, getting on the tube or onto trains, because with a pushchair you can pull the back and you can flip it up. If you're in a heavy motorized vehicle, that doesn't work in quite the same way. I understand that. So things that are accessible with a pushchair would potentially not be accessible for certain wheelchair users. But for example, if you are coming here, if you're coming to the UK, to London, and you do require a wheelchair at points, or indeed you need step-free access for whatever reason, I recommend before you arrive, and this is absolutely not sponsored, do download an app called City Mapper, which is available in various places, including in various places in the States. But make sure you have access to it, and on your Wi-Fi before you come out, just click on the step-free access. And make, if you're not going to do data roaming, just make sure you have an idea, because of course it does. And what's good about it, so I can speak to the London one, it does update when there are like lift failures or station closures, etc., and it reroutes you. So something to bear in mind when it comes to getting to places. That's a really good way, I think, to figure it out. Yeah, I'm seeing people talking about. Okay, so it seems to me that this could be something that people find very useful. Then is, oh, hang on, Coco creates Sociability is a good app for accessibility info too. I haven't seen that one, so thank you very much. Sociability, so do check that out too. Yeah. So okay, that's something then. That's certainly something that I will think about doing. Is going to, because it's nice to get out and about with the little one and not be stuck inside. And I can tell you about how we get on. That could be fun. Cool. A mystery in a 1,700-year-old mosaic has been solved. Apparently, the medallion in this mosaic has been found to be a symbol of a Roman military unit. This was found in northern Turkey, this mosaic, 11 years ago, but it was only exhibited last year, and now this mystery has been solved. There are Greek inscriptions in it on a medallion with God figures in the center, and this whole mosaic symbolizes this particular Roman military unit. It's an 80-meter floor mosaic found in 2013. It has 2 figures inscribed and various geometric shapes. The central medallion stands out in these naming mosaics. It provides the name of the mosaic, indeed. These Greek expressions circle around the figure of the god Priapus. And so the expression symbolized the parambole military unit. So the Priapus is a fertility god, a Greek fertility god, who guards male genitalia, fruits, vegetables, and livestock. The Roman god Priapus was also worshipped during Hellenistic times, which is the period after classical Greece. This is a mosaic belonging to a Roman military unit or battalion related to legions that had not been found previously in Anatolia. Thus, this, through research, has been shown to be a unique mosaic in this respect. The team expects new artifacts to be unearthed, the mosaics being an extreme example. There are going to be further excavations, and they think that the remains of an ancient city is going to be found. This location has historically been ruled by numerous ancient civilizations: the Hittites, the Phrygians, the Assyrians, the Scythians, the Persians. So this has been included. The city which is home to this is also home to Mount Harsena and the rock tombs of the Pontic kings, which is included in the UNESCO World Heritage tentative list. So I assume at some point it may get heritage status. I think that's what that means. Under Roman and then later Byzantine, however you want to pronounce it, rule, Amasya, this is the area, continued to thrive as a cultural and administrative centre. There were numerous architectural marvels found there, bridges, fortifications, all built during the time. It was then also featured during the Ottoman Empire. It was a training ground for future sultans, with Murad II and Selim I among the Ottoman princes dispatched there to rule and gain experience in the complexities of statecraft. So what an absolute nexus of civilization. How fabulous. We're talking about the god Priapus. Oh yes, the Roman wall decorations of Priapus. That will get you demonetized quicker than you can whistle. Archaeologists have discovered, we're told, 57 ancient Roman settlements and thus mapped out a hidden empire. A research team from the University of Cadiz have investigated the valley of the Guadalete River in the hopes of finding Roman history. So they use multispectral cameras and LiDAR to find these 57 Roman era sites. They began their project in 2023 and were eager to understand any potential links between the finds they were going to make. So these 57 sites have been located. They started off by using an unmanned aircraft with these sensors, so this multispectral camera and then LiDAR, and then they could quickly process the data without actually encroaching on the area they were surveying. They then were able to add a radar to help define wall and settlement layouts that were not visible at the surface. So once these 57 sites are located, they then start mapping out how they link together through trade and communication routes. They then catalogued previously cited finds that were made in the 1980s and 1990s that hadn't been investigated further. So this then added further understanding to the patchwork of the Roman presence in this river's valley. We are told, quote, the data we have has allowed us to generate a solid base of archaeological information and documentation to continue with research in the coming years in this environment. Our main objective is to continue carrying out excavations and surveys with non-traditional techniques and tools that will be completed with the study of the contexts found, as well as analyze techniques on the documented materials that will allow us to obtain a holistic vision of the Roman settlement and the territory in the area around the Bornos and the Arcos de la Frontera reservoirs. This work is ongoing. An interdisciplinary team is on the ground to identify and catalogue the materials they have located, and the hope is this will help them to, quote, better understand the fundamental aspects of these sites located in the mountain region and the relationship at different levels with other sites. Pompei archaeologists have found the remains of a man and a woman who are been found with their treasure. They've been found with a cache of coins and precious jewelleries. This is part of a dig in Region 9 of Pompei, and this dig has uncovered numerous ancient buildings and artifacts. So a bakery, a home renovation, and rooms that are decorated with elaborate drawings. This latest discovery has added further detail to the picture of what life was like in the city before the disaster. The remains were found in a small bedroom that was being used as a temporary sleeping space while the home they were in was undergoing a renovation. If you check this article, I have cropped it out, but there are human remains visible on this. So if you want to avoid that, maybe don't check out this article. The woman in question was found on the bed. She was holding a cache of gold, silver, and bronze coins, as well as gold and pearl earrings. It's believed the room was chosen as a refuge by these two people while waiting for the end of the fall of the pumice that had been gradually filling the open spaces for hours in the rest of the house. The door was closed, so this room remained free of pumice, but the couple were, however, trapped inside. They were trapped in this room. Their deaths were caused by the pyroclastic flow that ultimately buried them. They were in a room with a wooden bed, a stool, a chest, and a marble-topped table. It was near the Blue Shrine Room, which was found in June, and next to a large living area that was decorated with frescoes. The current excavations in Region 9 were initially started to prevent the outer perimeter of the site from collapsing, and they have provided some of the most important discoveries ever made in the ancient city. So, and I believe these are still ongoing, so perhaps we will be seeing more updates coming out. Shane, a question relating to History After Dark. The ladies have some plans, I believe. We will be, I think, pausing our history heroes. I think that they are going to rope in some of our lovely friends for some naughty times, and hopefully I might be even. Thing is, I might be able with other people on screen. I might well be able to drop in at least for a time, clutching an infant to me. As long as I'm not, in sole charge, my hand is not completely on the tiller. There's no reason why I can't pop in for a little bit and say hello. So we'll see. I mean, I have terrible FOMO. That's the problem with me. So particularly if they've got somebody really fun coming on, my FOMO may not let me not stick my neb in. Should I mean? Indiana Jones inspired man, not necessarily the most ethical person to reference when it comes to history, but nevertheless, this one has found 748 historic coins. George Ridgway is a trained archaeologist from who lives near Ipswich. He found these gold and silver coins in Suffolk. They date from 206 BCE all the way through to 46 or 47 CE, which is, of course, when the Emperor Claudius is ruling over the Roman Empire. Museums have taken several of these several of these coins for their own collection. However, more than 680 of them are going to be going to auction, and it's thought that they are going to fetch £75,000 at auction. My goodness. He started his hunt back in 2019. And he wanted to investigate an unusual crop mark in a recently harvested barley field in Suffolk. He knew the Roman road ran close to the field, and he was hoping the two might be related. But once he'd scoured the area, he found that nothing was going to turn up. So he moved 27 meters away and recovered two early Roman bronze Colchester-type brooches that date to the mid-1st century CE. Then, in 3 hours of searching, he found 160 more Roman silver coins, with a few of the coins stuck to pottery fragments. He said he knew he'd made an important archaeological discovery. He called his dad to guard the site overnight. Oh, this guy's 34. How old's his dad? I've just got this vision of like some old boy with like a tartan flask of tea, just sat in a camping chair, freezing himself after death, looking after a field of Roman coins, poor sod. Oh dear. So he leaves his dad to guard the site while they're waiting for an archaeological team to arrive and excavate it. In the end, it took 3 months to recover the hoard. It's thought to be one of the biggest collections of Iron Age Roman coins ever found in Britain. So museums that have claimed the coins, these 63 coins, include the British Museum and the Colchester and Ipswich Museum. The proceeds that are going to come from this auction, which is going to be held by Noonans on the 18th of September, are to be split by Mr. Ridgway, and I hope his dad, and also the landowner. He did say the first thing he'd do with the money was buy his dad a pint. A pint? You left that poor sod sat in a field. A bonus more than a pint. Buy him a Land Rover, mate, so he's warm for next time. Other vehicles are available. Among the highlights of the collection is a stator from the reign of Cunobelin, and it's decorated with a prancing horse. That coin alone is thought to be worth between £3,000 to £4,000. There's also a denarius of Gaius Caesar, the emperor better known as Caligula, or Little Boots, dating from AD 37 to 38. This has got a portrait of Agrippina, and that is thought to be worth £2,000 to £2,600. There's also a denarius of the Claudius of Rome, AD 46 to 47, estimated to be worth £2,000 to £3,000. We've got some people who are going to come and try out History After Dark for the first time. I would love to have you there. As a word of caution, this is still slightly scatty, but this is a controlled version of me. The version of me that lives on History After Dark is an entirely different human, who swears like a scaffolder. So if you are easily offended, stay here. If, though, you enjoy vulgarity, come there too. Workers have stumbled upon an ancient Greek mosaic of dancing satyrs. It's part of a 2,400-year-old floor. People building a water line in Greece have discovered this ancient mosaic depicting a pair of satyrs, a mythical hybrid man-animal spirit of nature. It's been laid into a white pebbled floor, and these designs were once part of a home dating to the mid-4th century BCE. The Culture Ministry says that this newly discovered mosaic is in, quote, an excellent state of conservation. How excellent is that? It does look very good. Very good indeed. It's just over 3 feet wide. It's got 2 nudie men who are made with white and coloured stones set against a blue circular background. They both have horse-like tails, pointed ears, and yellow hair. On the left, the character on the left is sprouting a pair of 4 head horns, and he's playing a double flute, while the builded figure on the right is dancing to his tune, seemingly. These satyrs connect to Dionysus frequently, and Dionysus being the Greek god of fertility, wine, vegetation, pleasure, ecstasy, and ritual madness. It all gets a bit spicy over there. And this mosaic resembles other depictions of satyrs from classical Greece, namely naked men with tails and horns. I'm sure I've seen that movie somewhere. But come the Hellenistic age, which began around 323 BCE, the Greeks started depicting satyrs as half man, half goat. So Mr. Tumnus, essentially. Or apparently the anatomy found in Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson children's novels. I have to say I'm not familiar. Alack. The square pebble floor is bordered by a raised mortar floor. So this means that researchers have been able to draw conclusions about how this particular building was used. It's thought people probably placed beds or recliners on the raised floor and then held gatherings or banquets in the space. The satyrs, who are in a, quote, cheerful mood, which could be a very interesting euphemism, are also, quote, connected figuratively to the use of space, which was intended for celebrations that took place in that house. The officials have decided to reroute the construction to avoid further damage to the mosaic. In the meantime, a protective covering has been placed on top of the ancient artwork. Cheryl has to get her birds up. They're yelling. How many birds? What kind? I need more information immediately. Immediately. An archaeology student has stumbled, how does one, this way, onto a cache of Danish Viking silver. I mean, I stumble usually over my own feet, and it does not end so well. This is a 22-year-old archaeology student from Denmark. He was walking near a village with a metal detector. So he's not stumbling. I'm sorry. If you're pottering about with a metal detector, which is not subtle, let's be clear, you're on the hunt for something. It's not a leisurely stroll, is it? He found a silver bracelet that dates back to the Viking period. He then came back to the site and found 6 more bracelets, which he took to the nearby Musgard Museum for further examination. These are bangles that date to the 9th century CE. Researchers don't know where exactly the bracelets were made, but they think that their creators lived somewhere in southern Scandinavia, which of course includes Denmark. This article points out that Vikings, although primarily known for their weapons and armor, also wore a fair share of jewelry. They decorated with these jewelry pieces with engravings of spiritual and mythological significance. So bracelets and necklaces often have figures of Norse gods like Odin, Freya, and Thor. And they are really cool, aren't they? It's thought that these particular bracelets that have been found had a socio-economic meaning as well. They are made from the same material as the Viking currency was made from. And they are in varying yet consistent sizes, also similar to currency. So it's thought that in addition to showing off a person's wealth, they may have functioned as a means of payment in and of themselves. Very interesting. Now that these bracelets have been examined, they're going to go briefly on display at the Musgard Museum. And then at a later date, they're going to be transferred to the National Museum of Denmark in Copenhagen. So if you're around and about and you get a chance to check it out, do let us know what you think of this if you get the chance to go. Count Baileron saying that you stumble over historic finds all the time. Well, lucky you. Lucky you, I don't. Yes, I think that's the thing as well. In a kind of in a world where banking, I mean, currency manufacture existed long before, as we know, proper banking as we understand it. And the vast majority of people, however wealthy they might be, their currency or their wealth was in frequently movable goods. You look at the kind of Elizabethan trade or lending market, for example, where clothing, and this is one of the things that theatres did, is that noble people would take their clothing to a theatre. Theatres obviously have the box office, and so they have their money that comes in, they have cash. So then you can exchange for a period of time. You take the clothing, you give them the cash. If they need the clothing back, they then can come and pay you back in the cash. And thus they can also then use some of that clothing for costume. Frequently, if the clothing was heavily jeweled, they might pluck the jewels off, which is why one of the reasons why places like the Globe Theatre employ women known as spanglers, who would take glass beads and baubles and things and attach them to clothing that potentially once actually held jewels. Did body lice spread the bubonic plague? Research suggests these parasites are in fact better vectors than previously thought. So that's good news. It's estimated that the bubonic plague killed 25 million people in Europe. It's often said this is about a third of the continent's population. This was during the pandemic known as the Black Death in the 1300s. But it remains to be seen, and it is constantly debated quite how Yersinia pestis, the plague-causing bacteria, spread as quickly as it did. And my understanding is that bubonic plague spreads in one particular way, but there is a possibility for bubonic plague to become pneumonic plague and vice versa. And once it's pneumonic, then it's airborne because the person starts coughing it up. Researchers have now come up with a likely culprit, namely human body lice. Delicious. It's thought that these might be more effective at spreading Yersinia pestis than had been previously thought. This is building upon a 2018 study that's comparing historical records of plague outbreaks in 9 European cities to plague outbreak simulation under different conditions. Some spreading via rats, some spreading via parasites that live on humans. The research indicated that while rats were likely involved, the plague was able to infect so many people because of human parasites, including body lice. Today, body lice are usually found in situations involving reduced hygiene and a lack of access to clean clothes and bedding, such as after natural disasters or among people experiencing homelessness. But these bugs have been feasting on human beings and their ancestors for between 5 million to 6 million years. And in the past, they were just a fact of life, which is perhaps one of the reasons why the plague was, in many ways, an equal opportunities aggressor, but also was so much worse in densely populated areas. So a laboratory experiment was set up involving a device referred to as a feeding membrane that is designed to mimic human skin. Delightful. The scientists created blood samples contaminated with Yersinia pestis at similar levels to actual human plague cases, and then they set body lice loose to feed. I'm glad they've done the study, but I can't help but feel that creating your very own plague lice is probably not the best of ideas. I understand the need to know, but maybe we're actually living through frequently curiosity killing the cat time and time again. They did discover some possible mechanisms of transmission. Some of these body lice had Yersinia pestis in their digestive tract and in their feces. And because body lice feed frequently, usually 5 or 6 times a day, roughly once every 4 hours, they produce feces frequently. Once you're bitten by an infected louse, humans would then scratch their skin. This scratching could then... This is now a no eating section. I've just come to that conclusion. My husband's just texted me saying everyone needs a hobby. You're not making your own plague lice. Desist at once. It's not happening. Oh Lord. Okay, so right. You get bitten, you scratch. This then creates small entry points for the lice's infected feces. I'm sorry. This could also crush the infected lice into the process of scratching, could then mash the lice into the bodily secretions and thus let it enter the body further. They also found Yersinia pestis in what's called the lice's Pawlowski glands. This secrete the lubricating saliva into their mouth parts. So if a infected louse bites a human, these secretions can then directly submit the bacteria. I swear this is the wording. This particular finding could be a jumping off. Really? With lice jumping off? Okay. A jumping off point for future investigations. The research on the salivary molecules produced by body lice is an understudied topic that is worthy of further characterization. We're told that very little is known about these Pawlowski glands. So, obviously, the plague is always going to draw interest. And I think infections and pandemics, particularly given what we've lived through in recent years, are going to be the focus of lots of things, how these things spread, how they can be contained, how they go away, etc. So I understand the need to study it. And as we know, when it comes to things like this, not only the obsession about how to prevent it totally, but also how it's transmitted is key. And so that is, I think, why this study has been done. The thought of it is just, it's a lot. Steve points out that it's thought that the feces of the lice were the cause of the outbreak in Iam. The village of Iam. I want to do a video on that. Just. Whew. Rebecca points out, as a former teacher, you can confirm that lice are alive and well. Oh, yeah. We did a few months back. We did get a message from the childcare saying they had an outbreak, and I was. Fortunately, there was nothing on Gabriel, but I did prophylactically. I was like, right, I'm buying the lice treatment because absolutely not so much for him. His hair is relatively short, but I have longer than waist length hair. And I'll be honest with you, the thought of getting lice gives me the rage. I don't want it. Chelsea, but I got a grant for the study. I'll be careful. They better be careful. They better be careful. The grant is Dr. Alan Grant from Jurassic Park. Yep, stop tinkering with it. Nice to see you. Nice. That you don't have to be old. I mean, maybe I am old. You do have to. I think maybe you have to be British to get it. Nice to see you. To see you, nice. Rebecca. Imagine describing your job. I study plague lice and replicate pandemics. Must get a lot of weird looks. Also, a lot of people moving their chairs away from you. What? Sarah has got hair past her bum. If you had to cut it because of lice, you'd riot. I feel you. I feel you. Yeah. Sorry, Laurie. If you are now spontaneously feeling itchy, I apologise. Do you know what? We're going to move away from lice. We're going to move away from lice, and we're going to head towards compasses. Safer. Archaeologists have found a 500-year-old compass, and they think it might have belonged to Copernicus himself. So back in 1508, Nicholas Copernicus developed a celestial model of the heliocentric planetary system, which he describes in his landmark work, the Revolutions of the Celestial Orbs. This is the overhaul of the idea of what the universe was. So going from a Earth-centered universe to a solar-centered universe. Now, though, amateur archaeologists think they have stumbled across one of the tools that might have helped Copernicus in doing this work. An archaeological exploration done by amateurs was searching in the gardens of the Archcathedral Basilica of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary in St. Andrew in northern Poland. They use ground-penetrating radar, so not massively amateurish. They've got ground-penetrating radar, and they found an underground chamber with 3 tunnels. And in these tunnels, they found a 500-year-old compass, just like the one that Copernicus is depicted holding off them. While there isn't direct evidence linking this particular compass to Copernicus, there's certainly reason to believe that this link could exist. Copernicus did study at the University of Krakow in the 1490s. He received a canon cathedral appointment from Frambook. This position afforded him the opportunity to fund his studies for as long as he liked. But the job demanded a lot of him. He could pursue his academic interests intermittently during his free time. He would spend time at the University of Bologna and Padua, but he would, by 1510, return to Frambook, where he would develop his heliocentric theory. What lends some credence to the idea that this compass was once in Copernicus's hands is the fact that it was found not far from where this astronomer's remains have been discovered. They were found recently. It's thought that he was buried within the cathedral, but it wasn't until 2005 that archaeologists located a partial skull matching his description. The compass is the second such instrument found on the grounds, has now been sent to the Conservatory of Monuments of Poland for preservation and analysis. Once it's completed, it's going to be displayed at the nearby Nicholas Copernicus Museum. So, If you get a chance to go and check it out, do let me know what you think. A window cleaner believes that he is owning the first portrait of William Shakespeare, that it's worth over $264 million. This is a British window cleaner who thinks he's discovered the first portrait of William Shakespeare to be made in the author's lifetime. If he's right, it could be worth this amount. This painting, which his father purchased from Oxford Estate in the 1960s, has been analysed and x-rayed, and it's been determined that it does date to around 1595. So this is during Shakespeare's lifetime. It does resemble the only authenticated portrait of Shakespeare. However, this painting has yet to be confirmed. So we shall see. The window cleaner, we keep referencing him as being a window cleaner, the person who owns the portrait says that he does feel that his claims are being disregarded as, quote, much ado about nothing, lovely Shakespeare pun there, and that the painting has not been validated due to his blue-collar profession. Quite possibly, there is a lot of snobbishness around. He says, because I'm a working-class tradesperson, the people who've been studying this for years, they don't want to find this out from no one. I mean, there probably are some people that feel that way. I think that there are equally people who are skeptics, and that does come a lot with the territory of being a Shakespeare scholar, because there has been a lot of fraud, and I understand why people are a bit shaky on it. So the owner has shelled out apparently thousands to try and prove the authenticity of the artwork. This started in 2012, when this guy's father was watching a documentary on Shakespeare, and he spotted that the portraits look similar. The only confirmed painting of Shakespeare in his lifetime is known as the Cobb portrait. It hangs in Hatchland's country house in Surrey. It was made in about 1612. So this version we're talking about here is kept in a secure storage spot, and the owner says that he's resigned himself to the idea that the truth behind the painting may never be brought to light. Nevertheless, he wants to get out and talk about it some more. I mean, it's a very interesting piece. My question, I suppose, is, I've got a few questions. Obviously, people are Shakespeare mad. They are doolally for it. I do wonder if this were to be discovered to be a genuine portrait of Shakespeare painted from the life in 1595, my interest would be actually more, rather than who the subject is, who the artist is, who has commissioned this piece, for what purpose, and where is it supposed to hang? Why is this going on? So yeah, those are my queries. I suppose I'm more interested by the creation of the piece than the person who's in it. But I think that's potentially the way I feel about a lot of Shakespeare stuff. I'm more interested in the body of work than the man. I think it's more interesting personally. Kit, thank you ever so much for the super chat. I'm very pleased that you're enjoying your first live stream. Thank you very much for your time. So this is a project that Estelle is working on, Estelle Peronk, who I do know, and she's very lovely, and she has a channel on YouTube called Elle History, so ELLE History, and she's working on this project that is just super interesting. The lost letters of American Scots are being translated, investigated, etc. A team of computer scientists and historians, including Estelle, are looking at these 50 letters. They're decoding them, and they are translating them from medieval French into English. If I didn't point out, Estelle is my understanding is that her first language is French, so she is ideally placed to do this. She says that everything falls into place when reading the letters. They had been held in the National Library of France, and they cover a very important part of Mary Stuart's life between 1578 and 1584, so when she is held in captivity in England. The historian John Bossy, who wrote a big book on the conspiracies and plots under Elizabeth, he said that there must have been letters missing because he's looking at all of the letters sent during the time, and he said, quote, "It doesn't make sense. There must be letters missing or we don't have that are coded. But now, by decoding them, they know for sure who sent them, who they were to, all of this, and they offer the missing piece to so many questions." For example, so these scholars, these researchers are asking themselves, why was this decision made on February 25th, 1582? Oh, well, look, let's look at these letters from January 1582. This then tells you why that decision is made. A month later, everything starts to fall into place. These letters are going to be revealed by Estelle and her colleagues in a book that's looking to be published by Routledge in 2027. So Estelle says that this is an interdisciplinary project. Estelle's specialism is the Tudor royal court, also the kind of Tudor relationships with France, etc. She says that these findings have the potential to change the view of scholarship about Mary and how she conducted herself while imprisoned. She says, quote, "The significance of this is twofold. Firstly, there is the fact that these letters were mentioned by historians before, saying that it was the missing piece to understanding Elizabethan policies and to understanding what was going on with Mary Stuart and Elizabeth. And the second thing is the fact that because they are decoded letters, we have the voice of Mary. In the letters that are not coded, you have someone who whinges a lot, plays the victim, who seems a bit stupid. You have a damsel in distress. With the coded letters, you have a new Mary. You have the Mary who is unfiltered, who doesn't sugarcoat. You have a Mary who becomes the mistress mind." Estelle says, quote, "I'm not a Mary fan, and for a long time I thought she was stupid. She is not. She absolutely is intelligent. She's massively politically astute. I thought she made mistakes. She didn't make mistakes. She made decisions. I thought maybe she was a pawn in her family. She's not. She's actually the one giving orders. And there is much more in the letters. Her interest in Scottish politics, the way she does politics, the way she understands English politics. I thought she didn't understand English politics, but the way she talks about Elizabeth, Leicester, Huntington, Burghley, it is insane. It's all unfiltered. You can see how smart she is. She knows exactly what they're doing. All of it shows us how well her network was working. She says that this discipline is as old as Tudor history, but not every historian will get to say that they worked on a major breakthrough in understanding what occurred at the highest echelons of power in the 16th century. She says it does feel that way. Only 3 historians right now have access to this set of letters. They are very important, and I cannot wait to share them. Very exciting. Coco says that you would love to read the words of Shakespeare. You missed out on doing it at school. Would I ever consider doing a read along? You'd love to learn more about them. We could certainly do something. I think let's think about a fun way of doing it. Like maybe could we do it almost like a book club, if you will? So we kind of, I don't know, go away, read an act of a play. You know, if it's a 5-act play, we could therefore do it over maybe 5 episodes. Maybe we read a couple of acts, and then we could come together and have a chat about it. Perhaps that could work. I think. Yes, I think it would have to be potentially. It would have to be some live. It would have to be alive, but we could certainly sit down and have a chat about them. That could be really fun, I think. Sarah would be up for a book club. Only ever read Romeo and Juliet. Great play. It's a great play. Yes, I think, and maybe we could sort of pick what we want to have a look at. Okay, let me get this baby out of me, and then we'll sit down and think, because one of the things is that obviously my daytimes are about to get a lot more taken up with a small human, but evenings are freer, and what that does allow me to do potentially is to go live more often. So maybe a way to kind of keep in communication is to, come back and do the history news, but also maybe bring something else in as a live. So let's see. Cool. Okay, that's a great idea. I'll make a note of that. Hopping forward from Mary to Austen, 3 of Jane Austen's 6 brothers were engaged in anti-slavery activism, we have learnt. Debates continue about what Austen might have thought about slavery, but now her family's engagement in the movement to abolish slavery is coming to light. The 19th century newspapers and archives have been scoured for information, and this author has discovered that 3 of Austen's brothers publicly participated in the abolition movement in the years after her death. And it has been suspected that Austen was critical of colonial slavery's violence and harm, but there is no consensus on the question. The author of Pride and Prejudice includes words like slave and slavery in her fiction on nearly a dozen occasions. In her unfinished novel, Sanditon, it features a mixed race character named Miss Lamb. She is described as a, quote, half mulatto heiress from the West Indies. Fanny Price of Mansfield Park asks her imperious uncle Thomas Bertram, who is himself an enslaver, a question about the slave trade. Readers aren't told how he answers, just that she drops the subject when his response meets with such dead silence from her incurious cousins. In Emma, Jane Fairfax controversially compares being hired as a governess with the miseries of the slave trade. She calls both enslaved people and governesses victims. Experts, however, disagree about whether these examples show Austen's tacit acceptance or implied criticisms of slavery. Of course, some of Austen's relatives did have direct economic ties to slavery. Her aunt, Jean Lee Perrott, was born into an affluent family of enslavers in Barbados. There were other Austen family connections to enslavers. It was thought until 2021 that Austen's father, the Reverend George Austen, stood to benefit financially from the Antigua plantation of his former Oxford student, James Langford Nibbs. It's said that Reverend Austen was to be that plantation's trustees, but apparently there were significant misunderstandings about his purported roles. He was in fact a co-trustee to Nibbs' 1760 marriage settlement, and Reverend Austen's uncompensated co-trusteeship would never have involved him in any duties connected with running a plantation. What has come to light is that 3 of Austen's 6 brothers became publicly involved in the abolition movement. Captain Charles John Austen policed the illegal slave trade in the West Indies when he was in the Royal Navy. He wrote to an English newspaper about his capture of a slave ship. He shared his observations about the horrific condition endured by enslaved people on board. His actions did, however, allow the enslaver to escape. Her other brother, Henry Thomas Austen, was a failed banker turned clergyman. He then was a delegate to the World Anti-Slavery Convention in 1840. At this time, he was using the name the Reverend H.T. Austen, and people hadn't realised before that he was Jane's brother. Francis, or Frank William Austen, also gets involved. He was a naval officer who privately expressed abolitionist views. This new research has uncovered that he worked openly as a local anti-slavery activist after Jane's death in 1817, but before the British government abolished slavery in 1833. This makes Frank the earliest known anti-slavery activist in Jane's immediate family. There is, however, more to learn. The Jane Austen House Museum did run an exhibit recently about Frank Austen, but there is more to learn not only about Jane Austen's own views about slavery, but also Frank Austen himself. Scholars are continuing to seek new facts, to speculate about Jane, what Jane's fiction says, what can be read between the lines of it, to investigate what she might have believed about slavery and abolition. This will be happening ahead of the 250th anniversary of her birth on the 16th of December, 2025. All of these discoveries about abolitionist activism in 3 of Jane's 6 brothers add weight to the theory that by the end of her life, the novelist herself might have been on the road to becoming a passionate, active and public supporter of abolition. So as and when we find out more, I will give you updates of that. Jennifer, thank you ever so much for the super chat. And I will rest. I shall. I promise. I'm going to have to rest a little bit. And Steve, yes, for the time being, the lives probably will have to be a little bit shorter. This one's I have been good previously, but as I know this might be the last one, I have rather settled in. Rarely kept I've already seen Titanic artifacts have been kept in a secret warehouse, apparently. We're talking here about things like a handbag made from alligator, vials of perfume, all sorts of artifacts from the shipwreck. Its exact location isn't disclosed, but it's somewhere in the States, specifically in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm aware that's a fairly big location. And these shelves in this place are packed with thousands of items. Apparently there's a bathtub, a porthole, etched glassware, tiny buttons. And this article is much longer than this, and it's got loads of pictures because the BBC was given a look around this particular repository, I suppose. Talking about the alligator bag, it's apparently a very fashionable, beautiful little thing. It's made from alligator skin, and it has survived decades in the depths of the North Atlantic. The items inside had been preserved too. It belonged to a third-class passenger called Marion Meanwell. She was a 63-year-old milliner, and she was travelling to be in the US with her recently widowed daughter. Inside the bag was a faded photograph thought to be Marion Meanwell's mother. Also, there was paperwork that she'd need for her new life in America, including handwritten reference letters from her former landlord in London. It states, quote, "We have always found Miss Meanwell to be a good tenant, prompt with payment." Her medical inspection card was also inside too, as all third-class passengers need to prove they weren't bringing disease into the US. But this water-stained document reveals a tragic twist of fate. She'd been booked on the Majestic, another White Star Line ship, but that one didn't sail. So on that card, Majestic is crossed out, and her passage shows that she was transferred to the Titanic and that she became one of the 1,500 people to lose their lives. The curator, Thomasina, says being able to tell her story and have these objects is really important. Otherwise, she's just another name on the list. So yes, thousands of objects. Amazing. Coco, only the poor people have to prove they weren't diseased. Sounds about right. Yeah. It's a sad one, isn't it? Yeah, I thought about that. Her daughter to be widowed, and then her mum's supposed to be coming over to give her company, maybe to help her look after the children. It's another person gone. Horrific. Question: will the Tower of London lose its UNESCO World Heritage status? Possibly. I'm going to go out on a limb and think unlikely. The concern is focused on the City Plan 2040. This is the planned construction of 13 million square feet of office space. Quite why in a post-pandemic world where so many people are now working from home, we need housing with more space. We don't really need many more office spaces. Anyway, UNESCO is apparently worried about the cumulative impact from these kind of high-rise developments, because they will be going up and around the Tower of London. So UNESCO has asked the government to submit a state of conservation report outlining the efforts to protect the tower by the 1st December this year. If the agency determines that the government's efforts are insufficient, it could strip the tower of its World Heritage site. Yeah, I mean, and if it's going to endanger it, then they should put whatever pressure they can upon it. Historical Palaces, who are the official organisation who run the site, they say they are also worried about the future. Quote, as guardians of the tower, we have significant concerns in respect of the current draft of the City Plan 2040 and consider the current approach and policies of the plan in respect of tall buildings and impact on the Tower of London to be unsound. UNESCO is concerned at additional pressure to an already tense relationship between the CLC and Historic England, the government body that protects the country's historic and cultural landmarks. Historic England and the International Council of Monuments and Sites have long been worried about the new high-rise development threatening the tower's protected views and cultural value. This is not the first time that UNESCO has raised concerns about the tower. Similar issues were raised in 2014, but it decided against placing the site on the list of World Heritage in danger at the time. If the tower were to lose its heritage status, it would join only 3 other sites to be dropped from UNESCO's list. That includes Liverpool's waterfront, Germany's Dresden Elbe Valley, and Jordan's Arabian Oryx Sanctuary. I mean, I think that we don't need more office space. We don't need more office space. I'm still seeing stuff that got planning permission pre-pandemic being built, and hardly anybody is actually back in the office full time. I hope that. I think we've got a long way to go before UNESCO actually downgrades the status of the Tower of London. I think we've got a long way to go before that, but I am pleased to see that they are exerting the pressure they can exert. So we will keep our eye on it and see what's going on. An amateur sleuth has found the identity of the mystery women in Fabergé frames. So they have these 2 frames, and we have got the women who are in there is Sophia of Prussia, granddaughter to Queen Victoria, and Marie Perugia, who is the wife, Perugia, the wife of Leopold de Rothschild. These were in storage at the Brighton Museum and Art Gallery about 5 years ago. The museum confirmed that these purple and pink frames, as well as other small objects, were made by Peter Carl Fabergé, famous for his eggs. Although inventory numbers and Fabergé seals were found on the items, the women in them could not be identified until actor and filmmaker Adrienne Relou visited the museum with her sister. She sees this. She sees the Fabergé display and sees that the women are thought to be a mystery. So she went home and got to work. She used her knowledge of historical fashion and hairstyle to date the photographs. She guessed the older woman's photograph was taken in the early Edwardian period. And since Fabergé frames have been expensive, she guessed the woman must have had considerable wealth. And so basically, by a process of elimination, she starts going through debutante portraits. She looks through the lists of recently married men of the upper classes, and the Rothschild name comes up. Then she gasps when she finds the portrait of Marie from the Rothschild archive, and they match. So that takes only a few hours. The woman in the purple frame took 3 days. She had fewer identifying features. She was shot from a slightly unusual angle. She had wondered at first whether it was Princess Alice of Battenberg, who is the late Prince Philip's mother, who was herself the great-granddaughter of Queen Victoria. But further examination discovers that it's in fact Sophia of Prussia, who is Victoria's granddaughter. She is the Queen of Greece after marrying Constantine I. So that is very exciting. Very exciting. Oh my goodness. Thank you so very much for the super sticker, Teresa. That's incredibly kind of you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Jessie as well. Thank you so much. That's incredibly kind of you. I will buy some baby clothes. Thank you very, very much. Brian says, there's a wild story about Sophia of Prussia's second son Alex's death by a monkey bite. I am unfamiliar with that story, but trust and believe I will be checking it out. Wow. And as to why these Victoria-connected people and pictures would be at Brighton, it's likely because Victoria owns it, at least for a time, and then she has enough because the riffraff gets to be a bit too close with the Brighton Pavilion. So she flogs it to Brighton and Hove. And today, if you pay council tax in Brighton and Hove, you get a discount on going in because you get you're essentially it's owned by the council taxpayers of Brighton and Hove, basically. Thank you so much, Count Valerian, for the super sticker. It's very, very kind of you. Thank you ever so much. This was our last news piece. We're now hopping into the ding-dongs, pals. It's happening. Artifacts taken from the Gettysburg battlefield. The officials are now asking for advice. Artifacts went missing from Gettysburg, according to a news release. I don't know how that's happened. They were taken from the area of Timbers Farm, which is near Brook Avenue on the southern edge of the battlefield. I haven't been to Gettysburg, so I don't know what this looks like. Police and park officials are conducting an active investigation. And the release requests that anybody who was in the area of Timbers Farm between December 2023 and January 2024. I mean, how long does it close for over Christmas? How long of a period is this? Okay. They should contact the Adams County Crime Stoppers hotline. A reward is being offered for the safe return of the artifacts. The release says, you don't have to tell us who you are, but please tell us what you know. We don't know what the missing artifacts were or when the park first found out that these items had been removed. An email press release said that further details or images of the artifacts would be detrimental to any tips received from the public. The Timbers Farm is apparently a 4-acre site on the battlefield that once held a small farmhouse and outbuildings, no longer visible in the landscape. This farm was likely constructed in the late 1850s, but it suffered considerable damage during the battle. It said that anybody who's got any information about these missing artifacts, very hard to tell you what they are, very hard to tell you what to be on the lookout for. I do understand. I mean, but theoretically, right, it could be anything. It's not necessarily going to be battle-related memorabilia. My husband's just texted me saying it sounds like a dodgy insurance job. I mean, is it farm equipment? Is it domestic equipment? Is it battle stuff? It's really hard to say. But then I guess if somebody's bragging, if you hear somebody bragging, this is the sort of thing. They want you to contact the Adams County Crime Stoppers hotline. And the phone number is linked here, but I will read it out loud. It is 717-334-8057. You can also submit tips to accrimestoppers, all one word, .com, or you can email the park at GETT, so get_superintendent@nps.gov. So Steve Clark says, if they haven't got a catalogue of items, how do they know something is missing? Ask the British Museum. Ask the British Museum. So keep an eye out. Keep an eye out, exactly, for unknown artifacts taken by unknown persons. Are they from? Do they precede the warfare? Are they post warfare? Are they during the warfare? Don't know. No idea. Look, don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. But if I suppose if somebody's is it one person, or is this, we know, I don't know how supervised this site is or were, well, whatever tense. Is it something that's been on the site, like, that could feasibly be viewed as being reenactment or reconstructed, and somebody takes it as a souvenir? For example, I think I mentioned this before, we when I was doing interpretation, we frequently have examples or reproductions rather of medieval coinage, and it was very quickly learnt, and it only got worse as time went on, that you have to essentially check it in and check it out, because there are sticky fingers. So my question is this a concerted effort by an individual or individuals to remove specific items from this particular location? Or is this, over a period of weeks, various visitors doing a magpie thing? Don't know. And maybe they don't know either. Our next ding dong will, if this has got you angry, the next one is going to absolutely boil you. The statue honouring Mary Seacole has been vandalised. And the Met Police are investigating. So this is a statue that's been put outside a hospital in London, and it's the 19th century Jamaican-born nurse Mary Seacole. The hospital in question is St Thomas's. So red and orange paint has been thrown over the memorial. Graffiti's been daubed on the plinth. I don't know what that's supposed to say. I probably don't want to know what it's supposed to say. The Mary Seacole Trust thinks that the damage is racially motivated, but the Met is not treating it as such. Okay. Probably going to believe the Mary Seacole Trust, to be honest, but okay. Over the Met. This statue was installed in 2016, and it's thought to be the UK's first honour of this kind to a named black woman. The police officers went to the scene, having received reports that it had been vandalised. And look, maybe I'm doubting the Met because of everything that's been going on in this country, and in various places when it comes to sort of the dog whistles of various politicians and the press. We're told that an investigation has been opened, but as such, no arrests have been made. The memorial is going to be cleaned and restored back to its original design. The chief executive of Guy's St Thomas's NHS Foundation referred to it as a disgraceful act of criminal damage. Absolutely. Since it's been unveiled in 2016, this statue has been at the heart of numerous celebrations, important moments of reflection and remembrance for everybody at the hospital. She's in a high-profile position, overlooking the Houses of Parliament, and it's a constant reminder of the contribution of their black colleagues, he says, both past and present, to the NHS and to the wider society. Mary Seacole is referred to as being a symbol of the NHS, diversity and social justice. Her contributions were of real value. She learnt her nursing skills from her mother. She's a contemporary of Florence Nightingale, and she also goes and works. She's an army, works out in the Crimea. And she becomes known as Mother Seacole. Her reputation actually matches that of Florence Nightingale. So to have this statue desecrated in this way, I don't know. Yeah, the outrage for me, and I this look. It's not the first time they sang this song, the Met Police. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that's supposed to say. I don't know what those letters mean. I don't think I want to know. I feel feelings aren't facts. I get that. I feel that given the timing, the notion that this isn't racially motivated or that can be ruled out, odd to me. Brian, St Thomas's Hospital is a very well known hospital in the city. Guy's St Thomas's is very well known. Yeah, Jessie, I don't know. I have no idea. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. So yeah, we'll keep eyes on it. And I don't know. This is one of the reasons why you may have noticed that when what I used to do is when I put my pre-recorded videos out, I would announce that I was doing so on Twitter. I'm not going to engage with that site anymore because of the part it played in perpetuating the climate of hate that just what was going on a couple of weeks ago here and arguably still is ongoing. Absolutely disgusting. And sure, Twitter's got a lot to answer for, but so have our politicians of all shades, of all parties, for engaging in the dog whistling division. And our press is also complicit and culpable. And I'm incandescent about what was allowed to happen. I'm livid about what was spurred on and incited. And I am terrified and miserable for my community that have become my family of choice, who did not feel safe to walk down the street. Furious. However, let's talk about my last slide for you today. That is events and exhibitions. This is a UK one. It's the last slide we're looking at today. This is going to be at a theatre in Kilburn. An evening with Philippa Gregory and Tracy Chevalier. So this is a speaking event. I couldn't see whether there's going to be an online version of this. So this is on the 18th of September. And these are authors who have worked in historical fiction. Perhaps Philippa Gregory's most famous book being The Other Boleyn Girl, but many others as well. And Tracy Chevalier wrote Girl with a Pearl Earring. They are going to be exploring, we're told, the art of weaving history into compelling narratives. They're going to be looking into the research that underpins their work. They're going to be discussing the challenges of crafting authentic voices from the past to those who have previously had no voice. Tracy's going to be talking about her new novel, The Glassmaker, which is about art and craftsmanship, female perseverance, and the beauty of Venice, while Philippa Gregory is going to be talking about her study, Natural Women, that takes women out of the footnotes and reassembles the history of women in England, showing how their lives have changed over the 900 years from 1066 to the present day. So that sounds very exciting. If you are in London and available, as per, I've also put, as well as putting a link to this where you can buy tickets, there is also a link beneath it to accessibility information for the theatre and for this event. So if you do need that information, that's also linked for you too. So that is what I have for you this evening, and this month, and perhaps for next month as well. I think I will be taking September off of doing lives, and I may come back towards the end, but I probably am going to rest up and have a baby. If you please do keep sending me news items though, because I will be back and I will be doing more history news. Please send me backgrounds so that I can put together something for us to have a chat about when I am off of maternity leave. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch today. If you're watching the playback, thank you so much for your time. Thank you as well for all of your support that you give me, both on my lives, but also on my pre-recorded videos. Thank you for the community that you've given me, and it really does mean ever so much. I have said it before, I genuinely don't know how I would have got through 2020 and all that brought without having this wonderful community of people. I'm incredibly privileged to be a part of it, and I feel genuinely very grateful that you take the time to hang out with me and support me and give me ideas and chat with me in the comments, whether that's it in the lives or in the premieres, whatever's going on. So please do subscribe, and it's an ideal time just to check that you are subscribed, because YouTube for some reason does just unsubscribe people. I don't know why it happens. While you are checking, please also hit the bell icon that sits beside the subscribe button. When you do that, please make sure you select all in the drop down that will appear. Allegedly, YouTube will therefore tell you when I have next uploaded, and also when I'm next going live. And also on the community tab, it will tell you, I will put little bits and pieces up, might post some little pictures, might do some shorts here, there, everywhere. So it's always worth being subscribed. You can also find me on other places on the internet. I'm on the TikTok. I'm on the Instagram. So do make sure that you are following me there as well, so I can keep you up to what's going on with me and the foibles and lunacy of being a mum for the second time around. So please do make sure you're following me over there. All of that stuff is linked in my description box on all of my videos. You can also come over to my website, www.katrinamarchant.com. On there, I've got a contact page. If you put your email in that contact page box and submit it, I will add you to my mailing list. I can send you out an email once a week or whenever I come back, telling you what I've been up to, what's going on, and to also give you links for the content that I've got coming out in the coming days, weeks, months, whatever. I think that's everything. Oh, Penny, thank you so much for that super chat. It's very, very kind of you. Thank you ever so much. That's everything. So I will be, there'll still be some pre-recorded videos. So I will see you in some premiere live chats before then. And I hope to have a good old conflab with you all. But until our next live, please do take care of yourselves. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you send me. And have a great rest of your August and most of your September. Take care of yourselves. That's all from me. Bye-bye for now.